This is a depiction of what the Aztec Empire would look like to the Spaniards that arrive here. So the Aztec Empire ruled from about the 1200s to 1519, and we'll see how it came to a collapse. So it wasn't a backward civilization as once previously thought. Actually, the capital of the Aztecs, Tenochtitlan, had more population than some of the most powerful European countries at the time, 1200s, 1300s. So here's what happened. Hernan Cortez, he is the Spanish explorer. So he goes in to explore the land of current day Mexico, and he's in search of gold and glory. Now, he lands in Veracruz in 1519, and he starts marching east into the capital of the Aztecs, Tenochtitlan. As he is marching east, he actually makes alliances with other Native American groups who had been oppressed by the Aztecs. So it was pretty easy for him to get other Native American groups to join him to try to defeat the Aztecs because a lot of these groups had been oppressed by the Aztecs. Now, the Aztecs had a religious belief. They believed that a god who had gone away to a long journey was supposed to arrive from the east, and he was supposed to arrive mounted on top of a beast. Well, when Hernan Cortez comes from the east and he's mounted on top of white horses, an animal that the Aztecs have never seen, they believe that that is the god that they had been waiting for. So Montezuma, who was the leader of the Aztec at that point, actually welcomes Hernan Cortez pretty much with open arms, to be honest. This kind of gives you a map. That's the trash can passing. This kind of gives you a map of what's going on here. So Hernan Cortez lands in Veracruz right here. He starts marching inland, and along the way, he is able to make alliances with other Native American groups. And by the time he reached Tenochtitlan, he has a pretty large army, not only of Spaniards, conquistadors, and warriors, but also Native American groups. One of the major figures is this woman that you see here. And again, this is just a depiction of somebody's point of view, right? This woman here, her name becomes known as La Malinche. She was actually Aztec who was sold because her family couldn't pay a debt. And because of that, she kind of resented the Aztecs. She learned Spanish as well, and she becomes Hernan Cortez's wife eventually. She is the interpreter between Hernan Cortez, which you see here, Spaniard conquistador, and Montezuma, the leader of the Aztecs. And so she is interpreting for both of these men. Now, depending on which region of Mexico you live in, she could be considered a hero or she could be considered a traitor because, in essence, it was because of her, through her, some believe, that the Aztec Empire collapsed. Well, here's what happened. Hernan Cortez, he realizes that there's a lot of gold and silver in Tenochtitlan. So, in order to be able to get that gold and silver, he takes the leader, Montezuma, hostage. By 1520, the Aztecs realize that the Spanish are there to take away their goods. So they start an attack, and they start killing hundreds of Spanish. Cuauhtemoc actually replaces Montezuma as the Aztec leader when Montezuma dies. In 1521, Hernan Cortez allies with other Native American groups. He assembles a better equipped army. He attacks the Aztecs, who by then have been weakened by diseases and warfare. And on Noche Triste, the Aztec Empire officially collapsed. That is known as the actual night when the Aztec Empire officially collapsed. So we see that one of the major effects of Spaniard colonization is the collapse of the Aztec Empire, who had ruled the Americas for over about 300 years. And this final picture that I'm going to show you here is kind of symbolic and at the same time literal. So the individual that you see here in the middle, that is Moctezuma. He is the leader of the Aztec who takes place after, that is Cuauhtemoc, who replaces Montezuma as the leader of the Aztecs. Here, he is another Native American, and then you see the Spaniards conquistadors. And what you see here is Cuauhtemoc's feet are being burned because what the Aztec wanted to do, they wanted to see the Aztec leader, what the Spaniards wanted to do, they wanted to see the Aztec leader on his knees. So not only did they bring the Aztec Empire to its knees, but also its leader, symbolically and literally. So that was one of the major effects of Spanish conquistadors in current-day Mexico City. So that's another way that happens, that takes effects because of Spanish conquistadors.